Everybody's making their iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Pro videos. I gotta say, they do look good. The form factor, the USB-C port, the OLED displays, the XDR, whatever you want to call it to make it look good. The phones do look really, really good. But I must say there were a few things from my perspective that have got me a little hesitant to want to make that purchase. Starting with the first one, iMessage. You might say to yourself, well, iMessage is available on the phone, so why wouldn't you want the phone because of iMessage? Because iMessage is available on all of Apple's products, meaning the iPhone, the iPad, and the Mac, I have access to it. So talking to you on this computer right now, I have access to it. Picking up my current iPhone, I have access to it. So I'm recording this on the front-facing camera of the iPhone SE second generation. And I know it's not the greatest, but since I don't really care too much, it's fine. But while I have your attention, if you don't mind subscribing, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm on my way to 400 subscribers, and every single bit of support helps. And the fact that Apple made these M1 and M2 MacBook Airs has made me less willing or less needy when it comes to feeling like I need to pick up my phone to check messages or to even talk on the phone, FaceTime. This provides everything that I need to do in conjunction with the phone. I do need a phone. This provides so much utility that frequently I don't even care where my phone is. As long as we're connected to the same Wi-Fi network, I could not care less which specific iPhone I'm actually using. And I was actually having a conversation with my friend Kevin about this, that a lot of people tend to pick up their phone and do stuff, which is true. I cannot argue with the fact that that is a factual statement. But ever since I got an M series MacBook, I've always found myself reaching for this first. And I've had these M series MacBooks before I got the iPhone again. So I was doing all of my usual web browsing and things like this on the laptop. And then once I got the iPhone, it was okay. Now I can return these iMessages. I can answer and place phone calls, FaceTime calls. So iMessage is available everywhere. FaceTime is available everywhere, meaning that I can use this device. And since I already own this device, I don't really see the need to spend $800 or so on a brand new iPhone. The second issue that I'm having with the iPhone 15 series is the fact that there appears to be something on the motherboard that should not be there. So the first thing we're going to do right now is watch Hugh Jeffries. He's a YouTuber. You can see, well, my face is covering him, but he almost has 1 million subscribers. He does what I used to love to do, which is disassemble phones, fix them, put them back together, do whatever. But Hugh Jeffries is not in this country. So let's take a look at the motherboard that he takes out from this iPhone 15 Pro or whatever.
I did need to remove the earpiece speaker in order to gain enough clearance to remove the board. However, there was still something attaching to it from the bottom. Sure enough, there's an extra flex cable which is housed under its own bracket. Once it's detached, the logic board is free.
And you might say to yourself, okay, that didn't seem too weird. So what's the issue? All right, let's go over here to Jerry Rigs Everything. So Zach, pretty sure Zach is in the United States. So let's take a look at this.
Now here's where things start to get interesting. There appears to be a ribbon leading over to the 5G antenna that's soldered to the back of the motherboard. Not super normal. And peeling it off the motherboard reveals that I was most definitely not supposed to peel it off the motherboard. There is a secondary ribbon that's probably for the rear wireless charger and stuff. We'll find out more when we take off the back glass.
I hope you saw it. I mean, he definitely pointed it out. The fact that on Hugh Jeffries' iPhone 15, there was just that one ribbon cable, which you could unscrew the little bracket and pop it off like a Lego. But on this one, for the one in the United States, there's a soldered ribbon connector to the back of the motherboard or the underside of the motherboard. That is terrible. When you start soldering ribbon cables to anything, that's terrible. There's no reason that additional cable couldn't have been socketed and then covered with a bracket and screwed in place. I think Zach from Jerry Rigs Everything might have said something along the lines that I guess the amount of bandwidth required might not have been capable through a socketed port, something along those lines. He doesn't know, and I'm not faulting him for thinking that because that definitely is a possibility. But I am saying that if Apple is saying that the only way for us to get this done is to solder this to the board, you are wrong. You are absolutely wrong. There is a way that they could have socketed that ribbon cable to the board so that way it could have been removed. Not that I plan on opening these phones, but there's a reason that they do everything. And there is a reason that soldered cable is here in the United States and not other places. I do know that might have been something with regards to Verizon's 5G, or I'll just say millimeter wave 5G, which I don't think is available everywhere in the world. But they still could have found a way to not solder it to the board. And when I think about right to repair and things like that, I'm like, you start soldering too much to the board, and by default, it's no longer repairable at all as a consumer. So when it comes to whatever legislation Apple seems to be supporting in the state of California, I gotta say this is not good. So, and I must say, I know, 5G, 5G, 5G. As a person who tries to stay up to date on a lot of this stuff, I must say I don't see the importance of 5G in terms of the way that the carriers and Apple want you to think it's important. Yes, it's just the natural progression of technology. 5 comes after 4. There will be a 6G, but in terms of actual use cases for the majority of the public, it doesn't really serve any real benefit to you. In fact, for most of my devices, I turn 5G off. Now, I will say, since I did say that last statement, Louis Rossman did make a video shaming, I want to say it was Samsung, for not giving users the ability to turn off 5G. I have my Galaxy S23 around here somewhere and made a video showing that I could still turn off 5G on my Galaxy S23. So be aware of the fact that the carriers are able to go into your phone settings and tweak things that make it appear as if the device can't do something. Turning 5G on or off is one of those things. Also, being able to use your mobile hotspot. That's another thing, that if your particular data plan doesn't allow you to get access to a mobile hotspot, even though your phone is capable of turning that feature on, if you're not paying your carrier for it, they'll turn it off. So 5G, yes, I get natural progression of technology, but I don't see how it's really benefiting me or you, most likely, in everyday use cases. Don't solder cables to the board. As far as I'm concerned, buying an iPhone 15 in the United States is something that I don't want to do. And I have been tempted to consider going to Canada to potentially buy one from there. Am I going to do it? I don't know. But I do not want to buy an iPhone 15 in this country. And the whole point of this video is to express further hesitation with regards to just buying an iPhone 15 at all. The third issue that I'm having with the iPhone 15 is the fact that, allegedly, Apple stores have warned iPhone 15 owners from using Android cables to charge devices due to overheating issues. Is this true? I don't know, but there was one paragraph in particular, and let me find it. To avoid overheating issues when charging any iPhone 15, an Apple store, I think in China, has warned users from connecting those handsets with USB-C cables that come bundled with Android smartphones or designed specifically for them. Apparently, not all USB-C cables are made the same. The difference exists in the pin arrangement of the interfaces. There appears to be a smaller gap in the 9-pin and 11-pin connectors. When connected to the iPhone 15, the connector side of the cable might overheat, causing problems for the device's USB-C port. Apple Store employees may want to minimize these overheating issues, as excessive usage may melt or damage the USB-C port on the iPhone 15. There is no update on how customers' warranty will be honored, blah, 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 blah. So if this is true, which, I'm not sure, but if it is true, which it would not surprise me that Apple did or had to do something different in their pin arrangements, then the whole point of me wanting to get off of Lightning is completely mitigated if I still have to buy a specific USB-C cable, which we all thought this was a possibility, so I'm not surprised, but this definitely would confirm suspicion if this in fact is correct. USB-C is universal. And there shouldn't be a reason that I have to buy a specific cable for a specific phone. As I just said, I am tired of using my lightning cable. I hate it. I'm looking at it right now. It's sitting over there just looking stupid. But if I have to then replace that lightning cable with an Apple USB-C cable, I don't want to do it. Now, could I buy the Apple USB-C cable and then use that for my Android devices? Maybe. I don't know. But this article says, and it doesn't clarify if when they say Android chargers, which I hate the fact that we have to identify that type of cable, which is used to charge literally everything else, as just an Android charger or Android cable. I wonder, for instance, here is a USB-C cable that came with my Dell laptop. Is this acceptable? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'd probably have to do some research into pin arrangement in that particular cable or just plug it up and see what happens. But whether it's this cable right here or I have a USB-C cable connected to my Mac right now that I got from Anchor, or yeah, just a third-party USB-C cable that I have over there that I use to charge my phone, I don't know if all of those would be potentially problematic. And at this moment, that's not something that I really want to deal with. So the next reason, which I think I'm up to 4 now, maybe, I don't know, is how inexpensive it was for me to get into the Apple ecosystem. So not specifically talking about the Macs, because yeah, they were a little pricey. Didn't pay full price, but still a little bit pricey. But to get me fully engulfed into the Apple ecosystem, iMessage and all, this is how much I paid for my iPhone SE second generation. $80. $85 after tax, $90 if you include the cost of the case that I later purchased from Walmart. So for $90, I have the full functionality of what I need my iPhone to do, or what I need from Apple. Does it make sense for me to spend 10 times that amount to get the latest iPhone when, for me, my use case won't change? I will have my phone here, like I do here, and I will plug it in and just leave it. Or I'll unplug it and let the battery drain down, then plug it in when it needs to be charged. But these screens are so small compared to a laptop screen that I hate trying to be productive on this thing. It just doesn't work for me anymore. It used to, but now it doesn't. So I try my best to stay off of, whether it's iPhone or Android. If I need to be productive, I come to a computer. Laptop, like this situation, but I also have my monitor here when I need it. So does it make sense for me to spend 10 times the amount to just buy the latest phone? And then, as I was mentioning before, I don't really want to buy a phone from this country. So I'd have to consider looking at other countries. And if I'm importing something, or if I decide myself to actually go to that country, that only adds to the expense of the phone. So we're talking 10 times, 11, maybe 12, 13 times the cost of what I spent on this little guy to essentially get the same experience. Yes, the phone is newer. Yes, the phone is faster. Yes, I get that USB-C port. I might have to buy a specific Apple USB-C cable, but I do get the USB-C port. There are a bunch of positives that come along with it, but does it make sense for me to spend that amount of money? And at this particular time, I don't think that it does. And the next reason, which at this point I think I'm up to 5, you might ask yourself, why are you looking to get a phone from a different country instead of the one here? So I did not know about that soldered on cable until I saw that disassembly. And I think, and they both were looking at Pro Series phones, so I don't know if the regular iPhone 15 is still has that issue. My guess is that it would, because it still has the 5G antenna in it. When I finish making the video, I might go see if I can find somebody else's disassembly of the regular iPhone 15. But the reason that I'm looking to get a phone outside of the country is I don't like the fact that the iPhones here, starting with the 14 and now later, no longer have the physical SIM card. Is it the most important thing in the world? Absolutely not. But I do like the flexibility that comes with being able to take my SIM card out of a phone and simply plug it into another one. At some point in time, swapping your eSIM or your activated eSIM amongst different phones will become seamless. At some point it will, and I really won't care that much. But at this moment, it's not as seamless as it needs to be. And I need to point out the fact that my primary Android device doesn't even have an eSIM. So if I did want to go back to this, let's say I, get the iPhone 15 from this country. I convert my physical SIM that's in this current iPhone SE into an eSIM, transfer it to the iPhone 15. Use it for a little bit and decide I want to go back to Android. Now I need to figure out how to do that. How do I get that eSIM back to a physical SIM? I'm sure I could contact T-Mobile and they could probably take care of it in the matter of a single phone call, but I don't like that I have to reach out to the carrier to do that. If I'm just switching phones, they should not need to get involved. Also, when it comes to activating eSIMs, it's almost seamless. It can be extremely easy and convenient. But the same isn't always true about physical SIM cards, which kind of sounds like a negative, but I've had issues or incidents where I've had a physical SIM card. I've stopped using that SIM card because I just didn't pay the bill for the next month since I'm a prepaid customer. And then when I went to go back to reuse that SIM card, for some reason, it's just dead at that point. You'll call T-Mobile and they'll say, hey, if that SIM card hasn't been active for a couple of months, it can no longer be reactivated. So that would be my concern, is that the physical SIM card that's in this iPhone right now, I don't use it for a couple months. And if I want to switch back to using a physical SIM card for whatever reason, I now have to get another SIM card from T-Mobile. I think it's $10, which it's not super expensive, but it's just a cost that I don't feel like I should have to pay. I made another video looking at iPhones 15 sold around the world. And here we're just on Apple Canada's website. And you can see right here that you have access to either 2 eSIMs or nano SIMs. So why is it that only in this country did they decide to go full eSIM? My guess is they're trying to lock you in, which is my concern the moment I go from my physical SIM to an eSIM only device. And the last reason, which again is a positive thing, is longevity of support when it comes to Apple's phones. Here are all the compatible devices for iOS 17. In fact, I just updated the device to iOS 17 a few days ago. We got the iPhone SE second generation and later all the way up to the iPhone 15. This iPhone has, I say, at least 3 more years of support. Not that I plan on keeping it that long, but thanks to Apple's longevity of support, I don't feel like I'm really missing out. I do know there are some features that come with newer phones, and some of it is hardware limited, some of it is software limited, that they just choose to not push it down to the older devices. But as I've been saying this entire time, I really don't use the phone for much. So whatever new features are available in iOS 17, I may not use a lot of them to begin with. For $85, I have a device that's capable of running Apple's latest version of iOS. It gives me iMessage, FaceTime, and I have a Mac that runs as a counterpart. I don't really see the need to update.
Now, if you've made it this far, I gotta say there is one thing that really irks me when it comes to my current cell phone situation. So I do routinely leave the house with 2 phones, my Android device and my iPhone. And I've found myself needing to use headphones for both devices at one point in time. Obviously not at the same time, but if I'm out of the house, I want to listen to something on my Android device, I need some headphones. If I want to listen to something with my iPhone or talk on the phone, usually I need headphones that work with that. So I am kind of tired of having to carry both these around. This one does have the USB-C tip on it. I could take it off if I wanted to, because my current Android device does have a headphone jack. So either way, I'd still have to take this cable. But the iPhone doesn't have a headphone jack and it has a lightning port, so I carry this as well. So this definitely is something that I am considering as I'm thinking about not purchasing an iPhone 15 or purchasing an iPhone 15.